Let's talk about this idiot and his ridiculous tariffs again. A couple of thoughts about this. Now, I know we shouldn't take the arguments that he puts forth about these tariffs seriously because they're not serious arguments. They're bullshit justifications. What these tariffs are really about, first and foremost, they're about extorting money out of companies and countries to line his own pockets. It's criminal activity, pure and simple. So that's what it's really about. But let's just take some of these ridiculous arguments at face value and deal with those and expose how truly stupid those are. Now, here's a point that I really don't hear anybody talk about. But he says that one of the reasons that that he has implemented these magic tariffs, because they'd really have to be magic to do all the ridiculous things he says that they're going to do. You know, like they're going to force companies to make all their products in America. They are going to raise so much money for the United States Treasury that we'll be able to eliminate the yearly deficit and pay off our $36 trillion national debt and be able to eliminate the income tax altogether because we're going to make so much money from the tariffs. Now that is truly magical. So he says that, but what do he says that all these companies, this is what I want to focus on, all these companies that are going to start manufacturing their products in this country. Who's gonna do the work? Manufacturing all those products? Who's gonna work the factories? Because we have nearly full employment in this country, and we have for years now. Essentially, anyone that wants a job can find a job. Might not be a great friggin' job, but there's, jobs available. And, it's a tight labor market because the unemployment rate is low. Of course, Trump and the things he's doing will eventually raise considerably the unemployment rate as he crashes the economy. But let's just take this argument of his that we're going to start manufacturing all these things in the United States. When he took over from Biden, we had virtually full employment. It was right around 4%, right? Economists will tell you that's virtually full employment because you never get down to zero unemployment. That doesn't happen. There's always people in between jobs and, all that kind of thing. So you never get down to zero. And so economists consider, 3.5, 4%, somewhere around there to be essentially full employment. So we don't have a lot of extra people to do these jobs. So who exactly is going to work the factories? We don't have the people to work the factories. And people who want to come to this country in search of work, in search of a better life, Donald Trump has already made very clear to all of those people from anywhere in the world that you are not welcome. Unless, of course, you have $5 million to buy his little Trump Gold card. If you're rich, you can come to this country, but you're sure as hell not going to be working in any factories. So it just doesn't make any sense, even if what he says are the purpose of the tariffs, bringing back those jobs, actually were to happen, which it wouldn't. But even if it would, they have no people here to work the friggin' factories. On top of that, I've seen several polls on this asking about Americans' attitudes about bringing these manufacturing jobs back to the United States. Now, an overwhelming majority of respondents to these polls say, yeah, that's a good idea. We should make more of these products in America. Then they follow up and ask, well, would you be interested in working in a factory if we start building things here? And they're like, oh, hell no, I don't want to do that. But it's a good idea. And it's like, overwhelmingly, people think it's a good idea, but overwhelmingly, nobody wants to work the friggin' factories. It's like agricultural jobs. obviously we need people to pick lettuce and all that kind of thing, but Americans don't want to do it, which is why we've had people from Mexico and Central and South America coming up here, agricultural, workers, migrants, to do those jobs. But they're not welcome here anymore. And nobody who would come to this country to work the factories are welcome here. So who exactly is going to do the friggin' work? On top of that, people think it's such a great idea to bring back these jobs to the United States, build all these factories. But what we're doing is, number one, it's not going to happen, okay? But even if it were to happen, we're going backwards as a country. This is a high-skilled economy. But Donald Trump is doing his best to reverse that. His half-witted, Commerce Secretary, Lutnick, he's talking about how we're going to have these factories where Americans are going to be screwing in tiny little screws in the iPhones and whatnot. Is that what we really want for our economy? Just a bunch of uneducated worker bees to, work on the tiny screw assembly line? That's what they're talking about. Is that utopia? Why do you even need a high school education? If all you're going to be doing is screwing tiny phones into iPhones, no wonder Trump is doing his best to destroy education in this country. You don't need education if that's what we're going to be doing. We need to change our child labor laws and drop the age to work, drop it lower like DeSantis is doing in Florida. Maybe that's where we're going to get all the new workers. We're going to get a bunch of 10 and 11-year-olds working in the assembly line. Maybe that's what their plan is. So he's bringing us back. He wants to kill our high-tech economy and our high-skill economy. And, that's happening. Whether it's what he intends or not, that's what's happening with his war on higher education and cutting grants. People think that these, idiots, Trump supporters, think that the money that we give to colleges and universities in the form of grants, that we're just giving money to colleges and universities. No, we're giving them that money for research. They do things for the government. They advance science and research that improve our lives in myriad ways and lead to new technologies and products and procedures in the medical field and all kinds of things. That's what those grants do. Well, we're cutting those. And so the scientists and the highly educated people who work on that research as a result of the grants, they're going to go elsewhere. And we have the European Union now courting those people. They're sinking in like 500, I forget the number. It's a large number. A lot of money to lure people to European Union countries for education and for research. When you lure these these highly intelligent and gifted people from other countries to go to college and university in your country, oftentimes they stay there and they work and they contribute to your economy. They take their knowledge and their expertise and it benefits your country. Donald Trump is telling them you're not welcome here. So he's destroying our high-skilled, high-tech economy in favor of assembly line, putting tiny screws into iPhones, and similar low-skilled, low-wage jobs. And actually, it's going to be the worst of both worlds, because these factories are not going to be built here in any large number. No business is going to say, you know what, even though we have manufactured our product outside of the United States because it's so expensive to manufacture in the United States, we're not going to now relocate and put all the capital necessary to open factories in the United States just because this orange buffoon puts these tariffs into place. Of course, he's on and off with the tariffs, which gives them even less incentive to do that. But he's not going to be president for very long. He's got, what, 3.5 years at most, if he even makes it that long. He's not a healthy guy. So no one's going to make long-term investment and business decisions based on the say-so of this buffoon, right? So it's not going to happen. So we're going to get the worst of both worlds. In that we're killing the high-tech, high-skill economy in the United States. That is happening with his war on higher education and his war on immigrants to this country. So that is happening, while at the same time, we're not actually even creating low-skill jobs in this country. So we have the worst of both worlds. This guy, and why? Why are we doing this? Well, because tens of millions of Americans in this country decided it would be a good idea to elect a convicted felon, insurrectionist, narcissist, fucking buffoon as president. A man who was desperate to stay out of prison, so he made a bunch of ridiculous promises. And the price of groceries was too high, and people were upset, and they believed his friggin' lies, or at least some of them did. And because the base of the Republican Party is nothing but a cult of personality, and of course they were never going to vote for anyone besides Trump. So we have a stupid, ignorant, apathetic, and a lot of people who are just members of a personality cult. That's what we have going on here. That's why they voted for that. And we are watching in real time a high-tech, high-skilled economy that we have built over the decades being destroyed in a very short period of time on the basis of lies. Also, that this man can use tariffs and the threat of tariffs to extort money from companies and businesses around the world to line his criminal pockets. That's what we have going on here. So anyway, congratulations, America. Bang up job.